lunatic and a fantastic guy.
Right.
And I said to him, look, what's the chance of us getting hidden cameras and you engage with our central camera? He says, like, fucking nothing. So I sent him a scene, a 2-page scene. He's walking down the street, the whole parade is there, he's leading the parade, there's fucking RT, there's cameras everywhere. You don't know that we got hidden cameras everywhere. And Mo Dunford was playing Patrick, and we hadn't cast Kerry Fox at the time. So we had to stand in playing his mother, because we had to shoot it on March 17th, obviously. We got 1 day to shoot it, but the film is not going into production until 2 months later. So we got just enough money together to get the cameras for 1 day and all the hidden cameras. We have Mo Dunford playing Patrick, and he's going, Patrick, and St. Patrick comes over and goes, I'm Patrick, and he goes, no, I'm Patrick. And they have this big conversation in the middle of the fucking parade. Right. With all these people pulling their fucking hair out going, where's St. Patrick's? I'm fucking giving them the middle finger. We had this whole sequence where he gives them a lollipop, the whole lot. And we ended up cutting it from the film because it actually becomes too comical. Too comical to start the film with.
Okay.
But then we went, okay, so we had hidden cameras. My son's school, my kid's school, we got permission from the headmaster to film on top of the school. And what I did was I surrounded Patrick with a bunch of extras. It was 12 extras on the day, mates who just hung around. So they surrounded him, and we stuck him bang in the middle of the parade. So everything you're seeing in the parade is captured in real time. People, his hand he shakes, all that kind of stuff. We've a lot more footage. But all that stuff is just sneaking all that material. So not only did we not pay them, we fucked them. And that's important to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Just the second thing is just one thing is that the conversation at the beginning with Kennedy.
Yeah.
At the beginning you got this voiceover from Kennedy. And it's one of the great speeches from John F. Kennedy. And we contacted RT, because that speech is made in Ireland. People don't realise it's made in Ireland, which is extraordinary.
Right, okay.
But we asked them, how much would it be? And they were charging us $4,000
Folks.
for the Kennedy speech. The co-producer contacted the Kennedy estate. They charged us $35. So that's just to give you an indication of how much we're getting fucked in this country by people who just randomly come up with figures.
In Germany, they all offered me this stuff. I didn't even start. I just said, yeah, I have perhaps an idea. And the people, my colleagues from the television station said, yeah, if you need the material, we give it to you.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome
And they will
down.
cut it for me, so yeah.
And here we give it to you for free, all right. Sorry.
My name is Thomas. I'm a musician and composer. And I'm wondering how you work with music. What processes?
Okay, great question, because the composer is a guy called Ray Harman. Do you know Ray?
Yeah, I do.
He's a great guy. Now, Emma Reynolds, who cut the film, she recommended Ray. And we met up, and he's this beautiful guy. He's fucking soft, open, fantastic guy. But he has a little studio in his house. And he gave a sample piece of music, and it was just fantastic. But then when I went to his house, he had this huge orchestration that he had created. And I didn't know how to communicate with him. And I explained to him that I don't know the language of music. And I explained to him that I'm going to say things to you and use phrases to you that you're probably thinking, this guy's thick as fuck. But I'm going to try and use a language that perhaps both of us can understand. And then eventually when I got to the stage where we were actually constructing the music, Ray would create these incredible orchestral pieces. But I'd say, can you take those 4 instruments out? You take these 6 instruments out, because even though it's visually on the screen, it helps fucking guys like me who don't understand. See, they're gone, they're gone. You see this melody here? Can you just have that melody? This melody is going to become our theme. So the song that's used at the beginning and the middle and the end of the film is that theme. I thought it was a beautiful melody, but it was a melody that was buried in all its production. So by the time he takes everything away and pulls everything away, I went, that's the world that we're in. And then, so once he understood that, he could construct everything from that. I loved working with him. I think he's a beautiful man. And it's a case of going, my limited language, he somehow was able to turn it into orchestration.
With the what's his name, the singer, the
Daniel Dempsey.
Yeah, Daniel Dempsey. How did that turn out?
On Charlie Casanova, the end of Charlie Casanova, there's a whole sequence that's constructed around the song, Masai. You know what I mean? The song Masai. And for me, Masai is one of the great anthems of our time. I don't know whether for other people, Damien Dempsey is one of the most vital artists in the history of our culture. We're lucky to be living and breathing in the same time as him. He's that important. But he did a song called Masai, and Masai is when I die, I want to die not at the hands of an unknown, but at the hands of a Masai. And it's this idea of a warrior's call, like a warrior's prayer. And I wanted to construct the whole end sequence at the end of Charlie Gets Rumble with that song. And I didn't know Damien at the time. And I tried to find a way of contacting him, and I was told to contact him through his management. And I asked them, we want to use this song, but we fuck all money. And he asked me to just write a brief note about why we want to use the song. And I wrote a note to Damien explaining precisely why. And the response was staggeringly generous. And since then I became very good friends with Damien. And in this instance here, that song, You're the Cure, you'd think that song was written for this film, it's not. But Damien says when he wrote the song, he always felt it was going to be in a film. So it's one of those bizarre things where, and it's the editor, Emma Reynolds, played a song and she says, look at this song. So you're watching it and you're going, some people, Damien Dempsey is Marmite. Some people, they just don't respond to him at all. They think he's fucking terrible. They think his accent is terrible, his phrasing is terrible, his lyrics are fucking trite and banal. I think he's one of the great artists in the history of our culture. So I just reached out to him, and it's an indication of his generosity.
Can I give you a story? It's funny you're talking about taking away instruments. I did a score for a director which I won't mention because he's kind of out there doing stuff. But he told me the first spotting session I had with him, he said, listen, I hate trad music. I don't want any trad Irish music in this. I said, okay. And I play trad music as well as other stuff. But anyway, we're doing this thing and it's a horse going around kind of a being trained. And it's setting through there. So I turned it into kind of a samba. So you have a kind of bass starting and some percussion. And the whole thing starts with trumpets and flutes. So we're having this session, he's listening, he says, take out those flutes. So there's trumpets, I hate those trumpets, take them out. Trombones, I don't hate trombones. The piano, take it out. So he pares it down to a bass and some percussion, right? So he says, no, he says, take that bass out. He goes, okay. He said, that's great. I love that. That's it. That's perfect. Now, I hadn't got the heart to tell him. It's a barrel on, and it's me playing it. Right? I thought, he doesn't need to know that. If I hadn't taken his advice, I wouldn't have done that, you know?
But that's beautiful. Because very often a director won't know what they want until they find it. And an honest one will say, I don't know how to fucking communicate this. And it's like in the editor, we're talking about editing. In the edit, very often you have to go through hell to get to the mistake that suddenly makes something simple and clear. And a bow round in the right context is a fucking heartbeat. So, because some musicians will be understandably reluctant to engage in that, which is different than when you're a composer. But to get to that stage required you to put in the trumpets and put in everything, until eventually you were able to take them all away. It's a beautiful process. I love working with composers. Hello.
Hi, yeah, so I also started out as a theatre director and just started doing film. And one thing that's rapidly different is how much time you have to actually work with the actors before you start shooting.
None.
Yeah. And so one of my kind of major questions is how to navigate that. I mean, sometimes right now I have 3 months to work with my actors in a show, you know. I tend to build them up layer by layer, talk about their backgrounds, get them to an emotional resonance. How do you do that when you have like an hour? Like, what does that mean?
But it's funny because...
Or half an hour.
No, because there's part of me that is deeply jealous of your 3 months.
Yeah.
Profoundly jealous. You lucky fucking scumbag.
Thank you.
But there's another part of me knows, and you know from your experience, that there are occasions in a rehearsal room where something happens that you know will never be replicated again.
Yeah.
There's a moment of discoverable essence that is so exciting that the actor is going to try and find a way of implementing it in the overall structure of the performance. Think of that discoverable moment in rehearsal. I think that's what you're trying to get in front of the lens of a camera. And to get that, you have to have an actor believing that right here, right now, nothing else exists in the world. They have to be able to trust you when you tell them this is what's required and the reason is this. The language is that simple. Then you pull them back like a bow and arrow and you let them go. But you let them go within a frame. Now, within the frame, if you have an actor, one of the most amazing things about film, and film meaning digital as well, it reads thoughts. So you can be just off camera saying, okay, think of her now. Now think about that time when you first kissed. Now think about the time when you first found out she fucked somebody else. And just saying these things, actors all they have to do is think them, and the response on their face, glistening sweat, can suddenly change. Now when you cut that in between another interaction from another actor that could have been shot 6 months ago or 3 months ago, and you put the two of those together, an audience fills in the difference in a way that a theatre audience can never comprehend. Because the theatre audience has the benefit and the pleasure, and sometimes the fucking irritation and boredom of watching something from the beginning to the end. We get to experience it, we get to have that cathartic release in real time. But actors, what they're trying to do is find a discoverable moment where they themselves are shocked by their own capacity. For me, the litmus test is always when there's somebody chewing a burger on set and they stop. And then they look and they go, this shit's not bad. Because despite all our cynicism about crews and stuff, crews really want a film to be good. They want to be proud of it. They want to be able to say they worked on something that they're proud of. Most of the time they're not. Most of the time they're watching an actor and they're going, this fucker is getting paid all this money and they don't even know the first 6 lines of the scene. And that's part of the problem. So for me, it's stage and screen. People keep on talking about the difference between the two of them. They're not that different in the sense that your job is to facilitate and empower that actor to become something that they themselves did not even conceive they were capable of becoming. If that's what you're doing as a director, on stage or on screen, then you're doing okay. You're protecting them. You're protecting these babies. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, for me, personal, you're not from this earth. You're from, I have no idea, because you love to take risks. And I love that. But tell me, or tell us, how Patrick's Day come in your mind, in your brain?
I used to work in a psychiatric hospital, and I was only a teenager, and I saw amazing things from amazing people, and these amazing people would be people that people would be embarrassed to see on a common street. People that people would look away from or look down on or look at with sympathy, because they were physically and mentally disabled. But I found them incredible. And I used to go into work early in the morning and be in the company of these astounding people. And most of their behaviour was acceptable on some level. But the moment they gave any indication toward an aspiration toward intimacy, they were fucking shut down like they were sex offenders. And none of them were, by the way. I remember thinking at the time there's something deeply, deeply disturbing about this idea of the moral imposition because you believe it's for their own benefit. Now, if you look at our government, because Patrick's Day is also a political metaphor, and you don't want to make it too, because Charlie Casanova is so political it got fucking destroyed, but Patrick's Day is just as political. It's just veiled. But it's about a nanny state, and it's about the insistence that we use austerity, for example. Our government has justified the use of austerity to destroy people's lives. They keep on telling us that these things need to be done for our own benefit. And then I want to explore the idea of what's it like to be a mother or a father or a parent, where you're the only one who knows what your child is capable of doing. And what would you be willing to do for love? Every single character in Patrick's Day, every single character, with no exception, is trying to come to terms with their fucked up idea of love. Every character. Now, because of that, you have a thematic interrogation that's worth exploring. So even in the tagline is love is blindness. Do you believe love is blindness? Do you believe love gives you sight? Whatever the fuck you want it to be. In terms of what it became, when I worked in that hospital, I knew I had to write something. But I was also knew what it was like to be homeless. I knew what it was like to be lonely beyond belief. I knew what it was like to try and commit suicide. I knew what it was like to be so removed and so isolated from society that the only thing you could do was either try to kill yourself or take a risk to completely change your life. And when you're homeless, you become invisible. You become literally invisible. People don't see you. And I was homeless at a time when, unfortunately, the horror show what homelessness is like now. When I was homeless, there was no such thing as homelessness. So you hid it constantly. When you would sleep on a park bench, you were in a state of terror. And you would go back out and sleep on a street corner because you were afraid of being alone. I used to go to train stations to pick up cigarette butts so you could roll your cigarette butts. But the real reason I went to train stations was to see people kissing each other. Kiss each other goodbye, kiss each other hello, to see lovers, to engage, and to yearn and to connect on that level. So when you start doing all those things, you understand someone like Patrick. What's it like to be a young man where the whole world tells you you have no right to the thing that you yearn for? Where the whole world tells you that it's sick, and you are sick.